Some of you might recognise that building. It sits in the middle of Swindon. And I want to start with something that you might not apply very often, which is hindsight. The lessons that were learnt from the railway workers can be reapplied today. This building, which is known as the People's Palace, not a royal palace, but paid for by the workers, for the workers, at a time when New Swindon didn't have any facilities at all. And this was the response. This stunning building was paid for by railway workers collecting money week after week, pennies after pennies, to eventually this fantastic building was opened in 1855 as a response to community needs. Now, I'm going to take you forward in the near future because when it was at its prime, it could have sat on a university campus, been part of a royal estate. But these workers from the past have produced such a wonderful building, it's worth reflecting on it. For inside of that building, there were baths because there was no running water in the village. Inside of this building was one of the first public lending libraries in the country. There was something for the mind, the body, the soul, education, leisure. It was like a total fix for the needs at the time. But in 1986, things changed. The works closed. 3,000 workers who were mainly members of this organisation, which was known as the Mechanics Institution, lost their jobs. I was one of those. So it's quite personal to me that this building should be in the condition it used to be, but it's not. That's the condition of the building today. Held up by scaffolding, surrounded by murals. Pretty, but really there to hide the decline that's happened inside that building. And this is a significant building. It's a landmark for this town. It may not be for the country, but the railway village from which it sits is. It's been acknowledged. And this building has been recognised by some. And many in Swindon would like to see it restored, back in use as it used to be. Now, currently, I'm a chair of an organisation that was formerly the New Mechanics Preservation Trust, but is now known as Swindon Heritage. We may be dropping the word preservation this shortly, so that people in Swindon know we're here for the heritage of Swindon. And as the chair, I often get asked the same question. What is happening to the mechanics? And it doesn't matter what answer I give. The response just washes over their heads. And do you know why? Because all they want is the building as it was. Not what we propose to do, but how they used to feel when they used to go in there or their parents used to go in there. And I can't give that promise. I can give a promise to be working to get the building as it used to be. And that's the essence of my talk with you today. And it can be applied across the country because it was a national scheme that went into the railway village called the Heritage Action Zone. 87 of these were in operation across the country, and Swindon's was brilliant. I can only describe it as that. It blended a mix of heritage professionals with expertise from Historic England, National Trust. Then there was businesses, local businesses involved. We had people from charities, from the communities, all blending their work together, being led by Historic England, and at its axis was a very special person who was the officer who made sure that the 60 projects that they identified got delivered. And when it got delivered, it didn't stop there. There's still a legacy group working today. And in fact, the last blast at our local museum, which commemorated the closure of the works, that whole event stemmed from people who had previously been involved with the Heritage Action Zone. So it's a very proactive way of doing things. Now, I'm going to argue with you today that significant buildings, the kind of buildings that go on endangered lists, should be treated differently, both based on their condition and the community value of that building. I look at the endangered list as a cry for help, saying no matter what national protection framework is there, things haven't worked right. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on an endangered list. So the protection framework is clearly not working. Some private ownership is clearly not working. Some succeed. Locally, we have a building in a state like that. That's not success. It's not a message I want to give you today. I want to change it back to where we were. That's where I want to be. But how do we do that? How do we turn things around from that into something that we can be proud of? And I would point you back to the HAS. So the HAS, when it was finished, ended up with 60 projects. It turned 1.6 million of investment into 28 million pounds worth of expenditure. And it's still continuing today. The people that have been involved with that original project are still working today. It not only did that, for the first time, I started to hear people speaking with pride about the investment going into the area. When the works closed, with 3,000 jobs gone, it produced a social void where things got dragged down, businesses closed, pubs closed. And what is happening with the HAS, or the Heritage Action Zone, was an uplift. Buildings being converted, buildings being changed. Now, you could say, that's fine, but why should I put my taxes towards old buildings? And I would argue with you, are you happy to do it for sport? Are you happy to do it for your Olympic medals? Because that investment is normally just a loss, apart from the outcome of elite athletes. And the case actually is different. It's not about the athletes, it's about a healthy way of living. Sport is recognized as producing health benefits. And a similar case can be made for heritage. Because when you invest in heritage, you're looking at the well-being of your towns, how to improve areas, putting in anchor sites, getting pride back into areas, lifting them up. There are ways at which we can invest our money to get different results. Now, I'm not naive. It's a legal minefield. I would like to see a change where it's conditional on you owning a building that you have to improve it. If you don't improve it, there needs to be an asset transfer, and I would say it needs to go to the stewardship of local communities where the shared responsibility is taken on board. Much the same as those original railway workers where they put all their pennies together to actually build the mechanics in the first place. So I am reflecting on hindsight now. I am saying to you, there is a way forward, but it needs a few changes. And those changes are in our hands. When the HAS finished, it actually led to a question about, well, what's to follow this? Well, it was unfortunately a one-off 83 million investment to lift up places done by the government. But we're still in a situation where the building is trapped, it's gridlocked, and we have to find a different way. We have to rethink heritage. Surely the value of a building isn't in ownership, it's in its care. It's the response that should be there. Surely the legal framework should allow transfer of assets where there's not complex compulsory purchase orders. There needs to be a simpler way. Now, I I'm reflecting on the issues that I've met personally, and I've failed. I must have failed, because this building is still like this. And the organization that I'm associated with has been in existence for 30 years. So the message from today is not for your ears, it's for other people's ears to hear. The message is to influence, to change, and to seek legal changes that will enable local groups, a bit like what we did with the Heritage Action Zone, to take control and to develop. My message is nearly finished now, but it needs people to influence and pressure. Give examples that if you can get 1.6 million and turn it into 28 million pounds of expenditure, why can't we do that with this building? Now, unfortunately, at the moment, it is the playground of urban explorers. It's been used and played on, and we've even had some arson. And you can recognize the fire engine there dealing with the problem. It's not where I want to be, but unfortunately, that's where we are today. And I hope that you take on board that stewardship is better than ownership. Thank you.